Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Loud and Proud Mamas. I'm your host, Justine.
And I'm your host, Laura.
And can you believe it? Back again in the booth so soon. Laura, are the podcasting muscles returning?
They are, yes. I think so, anyways. How about you?
I'm feeling good. Definitely the editing muscles are returning.
Yeah, you were super fast with this one.
And so, my goodness, did you get the 9,000 alerts from the weather forecasting people being like, beware the ice storm apocalypse? You're all going to die in your homes.
Okay, listeners. So, if you're not from around here, then you probably don't know what just happened. But so years ago, long time ago, we had a massive ice storm in Montreal. It was like, I think I was 4 years old, but I still remember it. Like, we were out for weeks, and there was power outages everywhere. The whole world looked like an ice cube. Anyways, so this is all I think scarred in a lot of people's minds. So the weather people forecasted that we were going to have another one of these, that it was going to be like this level,
the ice
like,
apocalypse.
Yeah, that it was going to be like so bad that in ahead of time, like, doctors were canceling appointments, all the schools were closed, office buildings were closed, daycares were closed, emails were sent out to stay nearby, like, only send your kids. They said essential travel only. So we were all like hunkering down, and they're like, okay, it's going to start at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, actually, it's going to start at 9 a.m. And then they're like, actually, it's going to start at 10 a.m. And then they were like,
whole time, yeah, there's like, the clouds are dark, the wind is like, picking up, but,
yeah.
It's bad, but it's not like apocalyptic bad.
But it wasn't even bad where we are. Like,
yeah,
on the full day that everything was canceled, I think, got rain for about 5 minutes. Like, there was no ice where we were. The next day, so then they were like, actually, it's going to come on the Thursday. It's going to come the next day. So some people were like, I don't believe you, and they went on with their life. And other people canceled everything again. But even so, like, we got a bit. Like, I woke up this morning and my car was covered in ice. Yeah. And there was some ice around, but it was definitely not what they were telling us it was going to be.
So I'm Albertan. I have only heard of the ice storm of days past. Kevin was also a child when it happened. He tells me horror stories and very funny stories as well. His favorite story is that there was this neighbor who, because the roads were all closed, because, they were all iced over. And so there was this one like expressway that went on for kilometers and kilometers that was shut down. And this neighbor just took a pair of skates and just skated like for kilometers and kilometers, just on and on and on to see how far he could go.
Wow.
So that's one of Kevin's more charming stories. One of the cuter ones from that horrible time. Yeah, same thing. My phone's going crazy. I'm getting alert after alert being like, you're going to die. You're going to die in your home. Society is falling apart as we know it. It's going to be Mad Max except ice. And yeah, we got maybe a couple hours of rain. We got a little bit more rain than you because we're a little bit more south. And, today we did get some freezing rain, but once again, society has not collapsed. We have not become the Canadian version of Mad Max.
We have not.
Which is good. Sometimes it's good to be over-prepared instead of under-prepared, but it is a little bit funny that, we're all being like, well...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little mad because
I
had a doctor's appointment, and it is so hard to get an appointment with my doctor.
Yes.
And I cannot reach the clinic. Like, it's one of those numbers that, like, you just can never get through.
Yes.
So I'm like, I canceled my appointment, and now it's going to be like a year.
That bad?
No, I'm exaggerating.
Okay.
But it is hard to get a hold of her.
Yes.
She's a great doctor, but it's tricky to get a hold of her. Yeah.
Yeah. The healthcare system, every province has its own challenges with healthcare. The ability to get an appointment, because I found like we were able to get the doctor, but then the second challenge after that is getting the appointment with the doctor.
Yeah. My main challenge is getting through because I feel like when I get through, I can get an appointment fairly easily. But it's just like I don't know what it is, and it's not the first clinic that I find it like you have to, do a special dance and song to get in through the call line.
My clinic is close enough that I just show up.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Not show up for an appointment, but show up to make an appointment.
Yeah, that makes sense now. Mine's a little further, but I guess I could do that.
But anyways, speaking of seeing our doctors and seeing our appointments, let's talk about another time we spent some time in the hospital.
Yes, this is a big one, listeners. We have talked about all of the before, and now it's finally time to talk about, drum roll please, our birth stories.
Yes. So I think the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to go first. Mine is kind of like 48 hours, it spans over 2 days, and then we'll go to you.
Sounds good.
So we had talked to my OBGYN and we had decided to induce. As we said in the last episode, my son was a big old boy with some big old linebacker shoulders, and we were a little bit worried about him getting stuck and having to do an emergency C-section. At this time, the plan was still to have a vaginal birth. That's what we planned. So basically, the way that we did the induction is the day before we were supposed to give birth, we were scheduled to give birth. We showed up at the hospital and they explained that they were basically going to put a balloon in my cervix and give me some medication, which would, I'm not sure how to explain this, which would basically like trigger the labor within 24 hours. And so I was like, all right, that's cool. So I take these pills. They're a big yellow round pill. I take it, and this very nice doctor comes out. He's the same doctor who had to do the ultrasound on my son when he was being very naughty and doing all his backflips. If you want to call back to one of our earlier episodes. This doctor does not remember me, but I remember him, so I was very happy to see him. And he's like, okay, so we're going to put this balloon up by your cervix and it's just going to help you to start opening up. And I was like, all right, do what you got to do. He puts it in and he fills it up with fluid. And the idea is that after about 12 hours, I pass this balloon naturally. And that's going to set off the process of triggering the labor. Basically, it's going to start triggering opening up my cervix.
Yeah, so basically what it does is it manually dilates you to a certain amount, usually like, I think it goes to like 3 centimeters and that's when it falls out. And then the idea is your body continues. Just filling in case listeners are curious. Hope you don't mind. I'm a bit of a birth nerd.
Please jump in because you know much more than I do. And so I can really only speak to like my one experience. But yes, so they put this balloon in me and immediately something's wrong. Like immediately it's just like blinding, shocking pain.
Ooh.
And so the nurses are very caught off guard because like up until this point, I'm chatty, I'm calm, I'm having a good time, and immediately I'm not okay. And they're like, okay, do some laps around the room, walk it off, not going away. And they're like, okay, we're going to run you a bath. I was in a private hospital suite that had a little bathroom with a bath. So they run me a hot bath. They're like, get in the bath. I get in the bath. I sit down for 15 minutes. It's not working. I'm still in a lot of pain. I start vomiting from the pain.
Wow.
And like now my vision is starting to go dizzy from the pain. And now Kevin is like freaking out because it's been about like 45 minutes, almost an hour of just blinding pain. And now the nurses are like getting kind of freaked out because this is supposed to be like a 15-minute procedure. Like you put the balloon in, you wait kind of like 10-15 minutes for it to get settled and then you walk out basically. And so something is clearly wrong.
Were you supposed to go home that night?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and pass the balloon naturally.
Oh, okay. I thought you would do that in the hospital because sometimes they make you stay overnight. But no, okay.
No. So this was supposed to be like a 15-minute appointment. You put the balloon in, You wait to make sure it's settled, and then you go back home, and then you come back in 24 hours later.
Okay.
So that was the plan.
Gotcha.
Now a more senior nurse comes out because I guess I don't know. I'm applying hierarchies, but this was like kind of only my vibe of hierarchies, you know. I didn't ask if she's a more senior nurse, but this was my impression that the nurses that were like checking in with me got this nurse. She was a little bit older. She looks at me and she's like, okay, I'm going to release 15 milliliters from the balloon. I don't know how big the balloon is at this point, and I don't know like percentage wise how much 15 mils is, but I am blindingly in pain, like vision blurred, like clawing at my face, sweating, just like unbelievable amounts of pain.
Wow.
And she gets me up in the bed, gets me in the stirrups, gets in there, releases what she says is 15 mils, and boom, I'm fine.
Wow. What?
Like night and day. And all of a sudden I'm like, how's it going, guys? We're having a good time. All right. I'm going to walk out of here. I could do a cartwheel now. Do you know how much 15 mils is?
It's not much at all.
It's a tablespoon. So listeners, if you guys bake or cook, go into your measuring spoon drawers and pull out a tablespoon. That's what she took out of me, and it was night and day.
Crazy.
Immediately I was better. Immediately. And so God bless this nurse. By the way, just so listeners know, this was the Valleyfield Hospital. 10 out of 10 hospital. I cannot recommend this hospital enough. I know we don't really have, we're not the American system, can't really recommend a hospital, but, I really liked them. I thought they were great. So yeah, she took out the 15 mils. Immediately I was better. So God bless this nurse. Anyways, Kevin's like, wonderful. That fixed that issue. Let's go home. So we go home. We're very excited. We're packing our 9,000 bags to go. We have a snack bag. We have a change of clothes. We have the baby's bag. We have Kevin's overnight bag because, we don't know if he's going to be sleeping on the couch at the hospital. So we have like 9,000 bags. We had gone to Costco to do like a snack run. So we had 3 different types of granola bars. We were ready. And so around 10:30, 11, I started feeling something. I started feeling some movement down in, I don't know, my vagina region, basically. I feel like I need to push. So I go down to the toilet, and just by pure reflex, I had my hand down and I caught the balloon as it came out.
Oh, wow.
If you want, Laura, I'll send you a picture. I think I still have it.
Sure.
If you want to see what it looks like. Yeah. It's not big. It's about the size of your fist.
Okay, well, I mean, that's decent.
Yeah. And so I popped that sucker out. Immediately felt great. Felt so good. I was like, wow. Like the best bowel movement you've ever had. And so I texted Kevin. I think I either made a note of the time that the balloon came out, or I called the nurses to let them know that the balloon came out. One of the two, I can't remember. And then we went to bed. And we were scheduled to be at the hospital for 7 a.m. I'm not going to say where we're from because I don't want to dox myself, but it's a little bit of a drive to get to the Valleyfield Hospital, so we had to leave pretty early. Bright and early, we show up, 7 o'clock right on the dot, with our 9,000 bags. And the nurses are like, hi, how are you? Okay, let's get you settled in. So once again, I have this really nice hospital suite. I have a beautiful view of Valleyfield. We have a private washroom. And they're like, okay, wait here, get settled down, and we'll get the doctor to come see you shortly. I'm like, wonderful. Let's get settled. It's 7 o'clock. And then it's 8 o'clock. And then it's 9 o'clock. And then it's 10 o'clock. And then it's 11 o'clock. And we're like, what is going on? One, no one is checking in on us. Like we're just like hanging out, eating our snacks, pacing around. Finally, at like 11:30 or 12, like we start asking questions like to the nurses being like, are you guys okay? What is going on? And like we kind of get the impression that something's going on in the background.
Just question, were you having any contractions at this point?
I was having irregular contractions, but I was having irregular contractions for like a week leading up.
And were they like Braxton Hicks ones, or they were painful
No,
ones?
they were not painful. I would rate them like a 2 out of 10, maybe a 3 out of 10.
Okay.
They were definitely like noticeable, but they were irregular. So,
Okay.
listeners, to let you know, irregular contractions are very normal leading up to labor. But once they start getting more consistent, and once you can start being able to time them, so they're lasting consistently a set amount of time, and you can like count, okay, it's been 1 minute since the last one, etc., etc. That's when, labor is starting to count down. So I was still irregular at this point. So finally, a nurse comes into the room and she's like, oh my God, I have to tell you what's going on. I can't give you details because it's patient details, but we had someone out of our region come to deliver. So what this means is in Quebec, I don't know how it works everywhere else, but in Quebec, you are assigned a region when you are pregnant. And once you get to your third trimester, it is recommended that you don't really leave your region because if anything happens, they want you close enough to go to the hospital that you are set up to give birth in. In this situation, on the day that I was supposed to give birth, somebody else who was not set up to come to the Valleyfield Hospital in an emergency had to come to the Valleyfield Hospital to give birth. And of course, like, what can they do? They have to service her. It's an emergency. And because I am like chilling, like I'm not in any kind of emergency, I got pushed down to the bottom of the priority list. So I was supposed to be seen in the morning, but through a fluke, through an accident, we didn't get started until about 2 in the afternoon. And so the doctor comes, she's apologizing. She's like, I'm so sorry. Do you want to try for tomorrow? We're like, well, we're here. We're set up. We'd like to try. And she's like, okay, it might mean that you're delivering like very late. Because, delivery can, it's unpredictable. But she's like, you might be delivering very early in the morning or very late at night. We're like, that's cool. We're here. We're comfortable. So she's like, okay. In that case, yeah, just, stay here, get settled. Let's start it going. They give me some medication to like start the labor. It was
Pitocin?
yeah. So, we start going there and the nurses start checking in on us more regularly. And I think it was very exciting for the nurses to have an Anglophone patient because we kept getting a rotation of different nurses who were all Francophone, who were like clearly very excited to try out their English. And so at some point, I'm trying to speak French to them, to be like, no, look, I can speak French. And they're like, at one point, one nurse was like, no. Today, I practice my English. And she was very excited.
Aw.
So we had a bunch of nurses coming in to check in with us. And finally, I get set up with the nurse who's like going to stick with me for the rest of the day. So I remember most vividly 2 nurses. This first one, Sophie, was a champion. Nurse Sophie, if you are listening to this, you work at the Valleyfield Hospital and you are a champion. She said that she was a veteran delivery nurse. She loves her job. She wakes up every day happy to do her job. And she was just a strong woman. She could manipulate my body with strength. The contractions were starting to become more and more intense, more and more regular. I started putting music on. At the time, I was very much like in a late era Johnny Cash mood, Bob Dylan mood. That kind of era of music. Who's that guy that sings Keep on Rockin' in the Free World? Keep on rocking in the free world. Neil something. Anyways, every time a new song would come on, she would say, Justine, another great song. You have great music choice. Wonderful. And then we would like go back to manipulating. She was like really into me like moving around, like getting me to do laps, getting me to bounce on the ball. Like she
That's
was working me
great.
out. She
Yeah.
was working me out. Yeah. And so finally, we're talking about the epidural. I'm doing good progress. I'm about like 4 or 5 centimeters at this point. And we start talking about the epidural. And she's like, Justine, You can do the epidural whenever you want. We will never tell you at what point to do the epidural. But I just want to let you know that, you know, we only have one anesthesiologist who is qualified to do it. And if he is in surgery, he is in surgery. You know, like we cannot pull him out of surgery to do the epidural. She wasn't like pressuring me to do it, but she was like, you know, like, I will get the anesthesiologist whenever you want me to, but the anesthesiologist is also seeing other patients. And I was like, yeah, you know, that's fair. That's life. So after about an hour or so, it was about 7 p.m., 6 p.m. And I'm like, okay, let's go do the anesthesiologist. Let's go get the epidural. And Sophie drops everything and hauls ass out the door. Like just fully like Looney Tunes Roadrunner, just like moving it through the hospital. And like she disappears. And 3 minutes later, she comes back like panting. Like, oh, he's coming. He's coming. I got him.
Wow. That's some good service.
Nurse Sophie was a champion. Oh my God. The anesthesiologist comes and he, you know, we're chatting. I'm chatty. And it turns out that he did his university at McGill. And I went to university at Concordia. I did a few classes at McGill. So we're chatting about the McGill campus and stuff. And he's putting the needle in my back. Very gentle, you know, serious man, but very friendly. And he gets me set up. Epidural works great. And for listeners who don't know, basically you lose like more or less all control of your lower extremities. You can't move your legs basically. So they got me set up on the bed. They got liquids going into me with the IV bag. And they're like, okay, we want you to keep moving because we want to like keep, you know, the labor progressing. We were just doing all these crazy positions where like, you know, it was a hospital bed, so you can kind of do an incline. So I would pull myself up and they had basically this like, they called it a cookie, but it's like a little like inflatable ball that had a platform underneath and you would bounce on it.
My hospital didn't have this.
Sophie was just working me out. She was getting me like, okay, now you have to kneel on the cookie and you have to bounce. Now you have to do this position. Now you have to do this position. And anytime like I got stuck, because once again, I do not have my legs. You know, Sophie was so strong. She just would move my body. And listeners, you don't know this about me. I'm like big. You know, like I'm not going to say my weight, but, you know, I'm a bigger person. And Nurse Sophie just made me feel like I was a little Polly Pocket princess, moving my body. Labor was progressing. It was progressing. They're doing internal checks and they're like, you're doing good. And then all of a sudden it stops. I hit 7 centimeters. And then they were doing hourly checks and they were like, you're not progressing. You know, first an hour passed, then 2 hours passed, 3 hours passed, 4 hours passed. And at 5 hours, the doctor comes in. I'm not going to say her name, but again, fantastic doctor. And she sits down beside me and she pats my thigh and she's like, okay, we're going to try for 1 more hour. Keep working hard. But then we're going to start talking about options. And I look at her and I'm like, is that C-section options? And she's like, yeah, we're going to start talking about it. And I'm like, okay, see you in an hour. And so she leaves and Nurse Sophie is just like, Nurse Sophie is getting me ready for the Olympics. You know, like she's working me out. It's just, you know, like you have to understand, like I have no dignity at this point. Like I'm wearing a paper robe, a cloth robe, with my ass hanging out. People are going in and out of my vagina constantly to check how much I'm dilated. My stomach is huge. I have no ability to control my legs. You know, no dignity.
But really, does anybody in birth, like I feel like it's the one exception to be like, everybody is going to see my vagina now. Everyone is going to see my boobs. Like, just throw it out all the window. Throw it all out the window.
And so now it's 2 a.m. Nurse Sophie, her shift ended at midnight. She gave me a big hug. She was like, you're going to do great. You're going to do great. And she told me that I had a great musical taste. And I will remember Nurse Sophie till the day I die. She was spectacular. The nurse who replaced her was Nurse Coralee. Nurse Coralee was quite a bit younger. I think maybe this was like her first couple nursing shifts because she had a lot of questions for the older nurses. She was like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? Is this correct? But very competent. I felt very safe in her hands. And she was also super nice. She was very encouraging as well. So it's 2 a.m. I'm pretty tired. I've been working at this for about 12 hours. I've been awake since 7. I'm tired. And, they do the check. The doctor goes in. She's poking around in there. And she's like, it's 7 centimeters. And she was like, look, I'm not going to push anything on you. You can keep going. If you want to keep going, you can keep going. But I want to tell you that you are tired and the baby is tired. And it is my recommendation as a doctor that you are not going to make much progress if you just keep going like this. And I said, okay, does that mean C-section? She's like, if that's, the decision that you want, it's not an emergency section. Like, your baby is totally fine. He's breathing fine. It's not. What I'm trying to say is that it was not an emergency C-section. It was an unplanned C-section because we were planning to do a vaginal birth, but it was still, a slow-moving emergency C-section, let's call it that. So I talk about it with my husband. I do cry a little bit, mostly because I feel like I've wasted everyone's time. Like, everyone's been paying so much attention to me.
Yeah.
And, all to get a C-section at the end. But, my husband tells me, like, no one thinks that. You're the only one thinking that. And, I dry my eyes. A couple of minutes later, the doctor comes back. We give her the thumbs up. She's like, all right. So they go track down the anesthesiologist again, the same one, the one who went to school in McGill. Nurse Coralee is running around now. She's like, okay, so I'm going to push this bed into door C or like door 7 or like, and then where do I go? And like, they're coordinating a bunch of things in the background. They're getting my husband into scrubs as well because he's going to be there with me. I'm pretty tired at this point, and there's nothing really left for me to do except relax, so I'm just kind of chilling in the bed. And start surgery around 4 a.m. So I'm very tired at this point. We go down into surgery, and the anesthesiologist was standing over me, and he was like, I need you to let me know if you feel anything beyond like pressure or like mild discomfort. And I was like, you got it. My husband, we have 2 very different memories of this. I'll say it the way that I remember it. Kevin leans over and he's like, when we get home, do you want to watch the A-Team? And the A-Team, for listeners and Laura who may not know, is one of my favorite action movies. It's so cheesy. It's so ridiculous. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really in the mood for the A-Team. Like, we did it recently, but, thank you for asking. And so then he says, are there any Hayao Miyazaki movies that you like that I haven't seen yet? Because I really like Studio Ghibli. These are kind of my comfort movies. And I'm like, well, you haven't seen Castle in the Sky yet, but it's not one of my favorites. The plot kind of goes on, and it has kind of a confusing ending. And then Kevin says, isn't that all Hayao Miyazaki movies? And I laugh. And then the anesthesiologist, who I didn't realize was listening in on this conversation, starts laughing really hard. Anyways, at this point, I am aware that they're cutting into me, kind of in the way that you are aware when like a dentist is doing things in your mouth. But again, there's no pain. There's just kind of an awareness that this is happening. All of a sudden, I feel my son leave my body.
Wow.
And I felt that sensation of like something leaving. And then the doctor says, oh, big boy. And I hear my son crying. And then all of a sudden they're like, Mama, turn your head, Mama. And I turn my head and there's my son.
Aww.
And I smile at him. And I'm just like my vision blurs because I'm crying. And then they're like, Papa, go cut the umbilical cord. And he's like, Kevin leaves my side. And he cuts the umbilical cord. And they're like, okay. And by the way, I skipped telling this part, but basically I had to go and get like repaired. I had to go like, get stitched up and like rest for like half an hour.
Mm.
So for the skin to skin contact, they sent Kevin back upstairs to the room and had him take his shirt off and had him cuddle my son for the first half hour. So I am in the surgery recovery room. They've stitched me up and I am now delirious with exhaustion and probably pain medication. So there is this nurse and she's checking in with me and I'm just having this full conversation with her. And I think she's Coralee. So I'm like, Nurse Coralee, oh my goodness, did you have a good shift? What are you doing after your shift? How long have you been in Valleyfield? But like I fully think I'm having a conversation with Coralee. And so at some point, like after a while, I somehow realized this is not Nurse Coralee. And I am very sad about this. Because again, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been awake for almost 24 hours. I'm on pain medication. I've just delivered a baby. I've had a C-section. And I almost start crying. I'm like, you're not Nurse Coralee. And this nurse comes and she's patting me. She's like, no, I'm not Nurse Coralee. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, are you friends with Nurse Coralee? She's like, I don't know who Nurse Coralee is. And I'm like, are you on the same team? And she's like, no, I'm surgery. I'm on the surgery team. She's probably with the delivery team. We don't really interact them. And I'm like, she's so nice. You should be friends with her.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
Anyways, finally, they deliver me back to my beloved Nurse Coralee, who wheels me back into the room. And they give me my son. And we start breastfeeding. And immediately he just latches on real quick. And like Coralee has a big speech prepared on how to do breastfeeding and how to make sure that he's latched. And she just stops the speech halfway through because she's like, yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's doing it. Yeah, okay.
Hungry boy.
You got it. He was. Well, he'd been alive for 30 minutes with no food. And then after that, I was like, Coralee, I'm so hungry, please. Because you're not allowed to eat with the epidural. Because you're not allowed to poop. Because you cannot move. So I had not eaten since I had the epidural. And if I had eaten before that, it was granola bars. And Coralee was like, okay, I will find something. It is like 4:30 in the morning. And she just runs out the door. And then 5 minutes later, she comes back with vending machine crackers and cheese that I suspect she paid for with her own money.
Oh.
I suspect. And let me tell you, Laura, this was the most delicious crackers and cheese. It felt like I had been blessed by the angel Gabriel with this vending machine crackers and cheese. It was so good. And I was just crying and thanking Coralee. I was like, it's so good, Coralee. It's so good. Thank you. She was like, I'm so glad. Anyways, they wrap us all up. They get me comfortable. They get the son underneath the heat lamps. They get Kevin settled in on the couch. And we pass out for a couple hours. And that was it. That was my birth story.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. And so how long did they make you stay at the hospital?
36 hours.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And then you got to go home.
Yeah, we did all the tests. So basically, we didn't refuse any tests. We did the hearing test. We did the blood test. I don't know. There was a bunch of tests. We said do all of them. And they really wanted me walking. You know, we were doing laps around. It's kind of like a big circle, the nursing station. So just doing laps. And then all the nurses would be like, bonjour, allo bébé, allo coco. And they're all really nice to me. And
because were you walking, pushing the bassinet?
Yeah. Because they really wanted me walking.
Yeah.
They were like, you really got to get on your feet.
Which I just want to say is crazy. Yeah. It is the only major surgery that they force women to get up and move right away. Like, the only one. I mean, that I know of. I could be totally wrong. But I'm just like... Anyways, I hear that you got the good stuff afterwards.
Yes. So the first prescription I got is from the delivery doctor. And that was morphine and stuff like that. But that was only a 12-hour prescription. And then after that, the next set of prescription came from my family doctor. And I don't know how this works, but I suspect that the delivery doctor just kind of like wrote down, I don't know, her recommendations or something, because it was the same medication, right? It was
Okay.
tablet morphine, naproxen, I don't know, something that starts with N. I might
Yeah.
be wrong.
No, I think you're probably right with
Yeah, and then a couple tablets of extra strength Tylenol.
Okay.
So they were like, okay, start with the morphine, and then once you run out of the morphine, go with the naproxen. And then once you feel like you're gonna be okay and you just need to take a little bit of the edge off, go for the Tylenol. And like I was like, I don't need it. I'm so brave. I'm so strong. And they were like, don't be brave. Don't be strong. Take the pain medication. You know, you're going to be in a lot of pain. You don't feel the pain right now because you are on the morphine. And I tried to be brave, and I tried not to take the morphine for like a little bit. I tried to stretch it out basically. And then I very quickly was like, no, no, no. I'm going to need that more.
Yeah.
And I did actually renew the prescription for the tablet morphine because the naproxen was not cutting it.
Okay.
And immediately my family doctor was like, approved, and
That's
just
great.
sent it to my pharmacy. So, you know, we'll talk about like, you know, the recovery and everything, but like I had 0 complications from the C-section. I had all the pain management I needed. I felt super loved and supported by my nursing team. Honestly, it was a 10 out of 10 experience. I have nothing but good memories about my birth.
That's great. Did they put your legs in that like giant compressing machine where it was like
No, what is
No?
this?
Oh my god.
What is
Okay.
this?
All right, I'll explain it when I do mine. But I thought that was the case for all C-sections, but spoiler alert, listeners.
So that was my birth story, and I'm just looking at the time now. My goodness, I did not realize I was talking for so long. We're pretty much already at 40 minutes, Laura.
That's okay. I was loving it. This is great. Like, I'm happy you didn't skip on any details and that we got to hear all about it.
I think for our listeners' sake, so we don't do an hour and a half episode, let's cut it off here, and then let's do your birth episode next week.
Yep.
So that way the listeners can have time to focus on both of our stories instead of trying to do a marathon jumbo episode. How about that?
I think that sounds like a good plan. We'll do that.
All
so
right.
we're going to keep you all in suspense a little bit longer.
A
For
little
part
bit
2.
longer, but that's okay, listeners. We're back on schedule and we'll be back in the booth before you know it. To close it out, Laura, can I tell you what I've been obsessed with lately?
Tell me.
So on EC2 TV, we have been watching the Paralympics. If you know this about me, I am a very casual Olympics watcher. You know, I don't really follow any athletes. You know, I don't really know too much about like the rules and regulations of every sport, but I can tell you that anytime somebody is doing a backflip, I'm pretty excited. During the Summer Olympics, that's like anytime they do the high dives, you know, anything like that. And then for the Winter Olympics, it's like figure skating and it's like alpine skiing, basically.
No gymnastics?
Oh, yeah, of course. And gymnastics as well. You know, that's what I mean. Like anytime somebody is doing something interesting in the air.
Cool. Gotcha.
So this year, we've been watching the Paralympics and we've been watching alpine ski. And it's super cool. So it's broken up into 3 categories. So the first category is blind skiers. And the way that it works is that you have one skier who is able to see. And then they're calling out what they're doing. So they're like left, left, right, right. And then they have the athlete who's actually competing. And then they're following close behind. So
wow.
You got to have like really good reflex for being able to be like left, left, right, right. And then the second category is people who have some sort of disability with their arms or legs. So for some people, they might be missing a leg. Other people might be missing an arm. Some people might have a cerebral palsy, so they don't have full control of their legs. So very interesting. And then the final category is alpine skiers who don't have control of either leg. So basically skiers who are paralyzed from the bottom or who have had both legs amputated.
Oh, wow.
So let me explain the mechanics of this sport because it is an engineering marvel. You have one ski and then you have something like an arm that has the ability to like it's kind of like a spring. It like moves side to side. It can go up and down. And then there's a bucket where the athlete sits in.
What?
It's amazing. I'm going to show this. I'm going to send you some YouTube videos of this. And then the athlete is controlling it with 2 poles that they do with their hand and then with their ab muscles.
Oh my God.
So, oh my God, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And like they're just going down like so fast down. And this is alpine skiing. So you have to dodge targets. You have to like go a specific path. I can tell you, like if I were to do this sport, I would die.
Wow.
I would die immediately. And, you know, and that's what you love the Paralympics and the Olympics for, is because you're like, and that's why you're the professional athlete and I am watching you.
I will live vicariously through you.
And the most tragic part, 0 Canadian athletes on the Paralympics for alpine skis.
Which you would think, like, we got a lot of skiing here. You'd think we'd be like the number 1.
Yeah, so policy agenda from Loud and Proud Mamas, we have to increase funding for the Paralympic athletes for alpine skiing by 300%. This is a cause for national emergency. We have to get Mark Carney on this. We cannot allow the Czechs to take first place on alpine skiing for the Paralympics. We have to be number 1 at this.
Unless you're listeners from the Czech Republic, then good job.
But yeah, so yeah, that's been really cool. So we've been watching on EC2 TV, but I'm sure you can see, you have CBC Gem. That's usually what you'd watch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you can check it out. But yeah, it's been really, really cool to watch. Kevin's been watching a little bit of Paralympics curling, and he's been enjoying that. We did really well on that. No spoilers, but Canada's doing well.
Nice. That's good. I would hope that much. Canada, come on. If we have anything, let's have curling.
So I think that is going to be it for today's episode. I do hope that you enjoyed my extra long, extra detailed birth story.
I sure did.
I'm glad to hear that. And so listeners, Laura's story is coming up. So prepare yourselves. That's going to be another fun episode.
Bring some popcorn.
Thanks so much for listening, listeners. I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Bye.